Welcome to Holy Imposter Syndrome, Batman, embracing your inner tech hero. I said this earlier, but I feel like it's odd that we're starting off day one, first session. I know some people are here for the workshops, but like to get into like a very emotionally heavy topic. But as someone said to me yesterday, best to get me out of the way first and get done with it. So, why Batman? Now, I happen to be a Marvel fan. I'm a big fan of Iron Man, but I went with Batman for this one mainly because I saw this comic panel. Now, what's happening here in this panel? Wonder Woman has the lasso of truth. She asks everybody to hold on to it and said, "What's your real name?" And she says, "I am Diana Fimascara," and Superman says, "Clark Kent or Kal-El," and Batman just looks at her and goes, "Batman." Because Batman is not an imposter, and neither are any of you. So, what is imposter syndrome itself? So who here has heard of the term fake it till you make it? Who here thinks they're still faking it? You're probably not, but you have imposter syndrome, right? That's what this is. We've been trained to fake it till we make it, and then we forget that we're actually making it. We're not faking it anymore. So let's dive into a little bit about where imposter syndrome came from, what we can do about it. We have a couple activities. My presentation is going to be short. I'm telling you this now because I want to get to Q&A because I feel like the connectivity part is more important than the history of it all. But let's just jump into it. So I'm going to read this one from my slide just because I don't want to screw up their names. But imposter syndrome was first identified way back in 1978. Two psychologists, Pauline Clance and Susan Imes. And originally, when it was diagnosed around women who were overshadowed by their siblings. Nowadays, it breaks all genders, all races. There's no discrimination in who is affected by imposter syndrome. So the question is now, does imposter syndrome exist in our field, in technology? And the answer is absolutely. Between the rapid changes of everything that we need to take care of, that technology is typically a group effort, not individualized, that it's stapled that the ideal is that we're not actually necessary until we are, right? These are things that have made imposter syndrome prevalent within the tech industry. Let's keep up with all of this all the time. So, what does imposter syndrome feel like? Raise your hands if you have ever felt like a failure. Raise your hands if you ever felt like a phony. Have you ever felt inadequate at your job, even though no one has said anything to you? Are you worrisome about your work? And who here has self-doubt? Awesome. We all suck. Presentation over. No. The problem is that we have these feelings, but we're actually succeeding at what we're doing. That is the basis for it. And the fact is that we all suffer from this problem. I wanted to just throw in the bat pencil for an old Batman joke, by the way. All right, so who am I? Well, my name is Justin Esgar. I'm the owner of Virtual Computers. We are an Apple consulting agency based out of New York with offices in Iowa, New Jersey, Florida, Columbia, Missouri. I also own ACES Conference, which is a business-related conference for Apple consultants. Gravity is our Apple authorized service provider. My Mac Mentor is our Apple training. And somehow or other, I am the host of the All Things MSP podcast. So if there's anyone who can tell you about what it feels like to be an imposter, it's me. In fact, actually, while I was writing this presentation, I originally was just going to throw clips up from the All Things MSP podcast, be like, hey, see how I talk about that? I don't do that either, like over and over and over again, but I thought maybe it would be a little boring. So I'm going to actually, I want you to understand something, that you are not alone. It's when you are in these feelings, you feel like you're alone, but if you look around, you realize that there's an entire room here. We're all in this boat together. We're all on this spinning rock together. We're all here, right? We're all on the same ship. We all have these feelings. But yet, a feeling like imposter syndrome makes us feel like we're isolated. So the first thing you have to remember is that you're not. We are here and you're not alone. I'm going to read these stats, even though you guys can just read them, but there's something that I wanted to point out. 70% of successful people reported experiencing imposter feelings at some point in their life. Yes, right? I've had a lot of successes in my career. I've grown from a 1-person to a 14-person company. I've got asked to present at shows like this and other conferences. I host my thing. I have the podcast, the whole thing. And yet I still feel like an imposter. 75% of executive women say they've experienced imposter syndrome. My personal take on that is because of the way we have been as a country, going way back all the way to now. 80% of CEOs feel out of their depth in their roles. Now, I know many of you aren't CEOs per se, but if you take it from a leadership standpoint, if you're the leader of your team, consider yourself a CEO. And 84% of entrepreneurs and small business owners reported experiencing imposter syndrome. I can tell you how many other Apple consultants I have spoken to in 16 years of being in business who make it seem like they know what they're talking about, and when I sideline them for a conversation, they clearly have no idea what's going on. This one I thought was really interesting, which is that those who have higher education have twice the rate of imposter syndrome than those with secondary education. And my personal take on that is that college and schools beyond that force you to do things like a very specific way, right? You got to do it their way, and then when you leave there, you do it your own way, and you're not doing it that way, and then you feel like something's wrong. I went to the University of Rhode Island during a really not great time, so I can't really talk how well my college experience was, but that's my take on it. So it's really weird. And not surprisingly, 60% of the tech industry believes that they have imposter syndrome. I know this is an older chart because a lot of you are looking going, what's Expedia? You know what's shocking? Like, you know what's not on here is like Yahoo or like GeoCities or any of those. But a lot of this is workplace culture, right? When you're in a workplace where you don't feel supported, where communication is horrible, and where competition is super high, those are factors that lead to these feelings. So, where does it come from? Now, imposter syndrome is all psychological, right? If you're good at what you do, but you believe that you aren't, it's here in our human lizard brains. And what's nice about that is we can actually do something about it, right? Because if there's something wrong up here, whether it's I don't have a skill, you learn it, it's now up here. Whether it's I don't know how to deal with a feeling, it's up here. I can deal with that feeling now. So that's the best part about this. So we're going to look at the cycle of how this comes about, and then we're going to, I was going to say fix, but that's not the right word. We're going to come up with solutions to help you overcome it over time. So let's talk about the cycle. You get tasked with a new project or a new job that you have to take care of, and your first feeling out of the gate is inadequacy or self-doubt, also known as anxiety. You feel like you're ill-equipped to do the job. You feel that there may be someone else who would be better suited for it, even though you probably can do the job that is told to be done. Now, I want to take a pause from the slides here because legitimately, as I was writing this, I got a phone. That's good for the YouTubes watching me take a drink, right? As I was writing this, I got a phone call from a client, a contacted a client, and she called me up and she said that she was let go from her nonprofit. And little backstory, this particular person I knew at another client. She had left that client moved to this new company, which is a nonprofit, and she was there for about 3 years. The IT person was friends with the owner, and this person finally convinced them to get rid of that IT person and bring us in. And this was February, March, so it's only been a couple months, okay? And so she called me, and I was writing this is like maybe 2 weeks ago. She called me and she said she's being let go. And I said, why? And she said, because the organization has made a decision that technology is not moving fast enough, and it's my fault. And in a split second, in a nanosecond, my head went, what am I doing wrong? How am I doing this wrong? How is technology moving fast enough? Do we have to spish on every computer? Are we not loading them? Do we have all the computers in them? Why are there 17 tickets still open? What is going on here? Why is my company not in control of this client? In a nanosecond. And all of this self-doubt, because I've been in business for 16 years, and there's people in this room who know me well enough to tell you that, like, I do know what I'm talking about. All of that went out the window because this person was being fired at a company we just started supporting 4 months ago. And even just talking about it, like, you can't tell, but I just got chills. Like, my body right now physically is just like, relax. Because it brings up these like horrible internalized feelings. It wasn't our fault. It's not our fault. The new person who took over is like, I love working with you guys. Oh, why the hell did I think that for that 1 second? Because I have a lizard brain that tells me these things, right? And so one of the things we do when we have this anxiety is we start to compensate with overwork. You heard one of the things in what I just said, right, was, do we have to spit shine every computer we send out? First off, that's not a sentence anyone ever says. Don't spit on your computers. YouTube, if you learn nothing from me, it's don't spit on your computers. But I got into this method all of a sudden where I was like, everything has to be perfect. And what's perfectionism? Absolutely impossible. You overcompensate by over-preparing. There's two things that happen when you over-prepare. One is you don't actually get anything done because you're busy just preparing and preparing. You prepare to prepare. You remember that scene? Someone mentioned Spaceballs to me earlier because I was talking to Rob Hammond. Remember that scene in Space Wars where he's like, prepare to go, and he's like, stop telling him to prepare, just go, and then he falls on his butt? Like, it's that, but in your head. And the other problem that we have is that since perfectionism is impossible to get to, we'll never get to 100%. If you miss by 1 or 2% going for 100, you will feel like you missed 100%. And I see a lot of nodding heads in here because you know that this is what happens, right? And then the next time you have a job that's similar to it, what are you going to do? I ain't touching that. I screwed it up last time. Yeah, but you did such a good job. Bullshit. We don't take accomplishments and approval, right? Everybody's happy except you because your lizard brain tells you that you're wrong. It becomes toxic. It becomes a problem. And you start to think, I don't deserve this win. Hello, self-esteem. Low self-esteem. It's nice to meet you. My name's Justin. When you have low self-esteem, you're way more to doubt yourself when you're getting these achievements. And even if you're praised, you don't think you deserve it. And thus, perpetuates this entire cycle. Now, of course, this cycle is doomed because, much like all circles, after that rationalization, you're going to get a new project, and this all is going to start over again. You're going to get the slides, not that they matter. We also have this really odd tendency to compare ourselves to others, even though we shouldn't. Truth be told, I compare myself to people that I definitely should not be comparing myself to. Gary Vaynerchuk, Elon Musk, and Steve Jobs. Am I like any of them? No. I might talk like Gary because we're both from New York. But the fact of the matter is, like, my business is nothing like any of theirs. And yet, when I talk about climbing the ladder and trying to get better, I compare myself to these three, which truth be told, they all kind of got a little lucky. So I tone it back and I say, okay, if I'm not going to be these three, who can I compare myself to? And I have a friend who's an Apple consultant. I've known him for my entire career. He's a lovely fellow. He's out on Long Island. We're very, very good friends. I talk to him all the time, and I compare myself to his business. Why can't I be more like him? The problem is that he and I have very, very different business models. He and I don't even have any clients that if you looked at a Venn diagram would be anywhere near one another. But why am I comparing myself to him? Why do I do this to myself constantly? Why can't I be more like him? I can't. I'm me, he's him, that's it. But in my head, I'm like, well, he's an Apple consultant and I'm an Apple consultant, so we should be doing the same thing. Now, I know two other Apple consultants that are in this room, and I guarantee that my business is completely different than both of theirs as well. And there have been times where I compare myself to both of them, and I shouldn't. We have different philosophical ideals on things. We have different ways of handling customers. Some of us are Adagi, some of us are Jam, some of us are Kanji, some of us are the ones that are not here. Like, you can't do this to yourself, but yet we do. Okay, so I'm gonna, because my PowerPoint timer didn't work, I'm gonna have to use my phone for this. And if you're watching at home, fast forward. I'm gonna give everybody 5 minutes here. Everybody has a piece of paper and a pencil in front of them? All right, find a piece of paper and a pencil in your bag. I don't have anything. I thought there would be stuff out. There's some in the back. There's some in the back. Grab some in the back real quick. Okay? Yeah, digital's fine. Don't worry about it. Digital's fine. Digital's fine. Actually, no, you know what? Digital's not. Screw you. Go get a piece of paper. There's a reason. Actually, I'm thinking about it now. There's a reason. Yeah, go get a pad. And if your handwriting sucks, I apologize, but you're the only one who has to read it, so it's fine. I'm originally from Long Island, lived in the city for 10 years, and now I live in Jersey.
I'm from Orange County, so
Oh, okay.
80 miles north.
Yeah. I used to work in Nanuet.
Oh, okay.
When I first graduated college, I was a really shitty mortgage broker. This is all I'm going to be on the YouTube, by the way. He asked where I'm. He asked me where I'm from in New York. Yeah, so I was in for like a couple of months, and I used to drive from Long Island to Nanuet every day. It was horrible. And then I'm originally from the Five Towns, and then I found like a mortgage company near me, and then I was just a shitty mortgage broker there, and then the drive was far, and then I got out of it. Oh, okay, yeah. My father-in-law's from there. Okay, everybody has a piece of paper to pad down? Sorry, I thought we'd be prepared. That's cool. All right. I'm going to set a 5-minute timer, and here's what I want you to do. Because I know right now everybody is feeling massively depressed about everything I have said. Excuse me. I want you to write down 3 times the negative. When was an event that happened that something from that cycle happened to you? When was it that you were tasked with a job and that you did the job but you felt like you didn't, okay? So I want you to write down 3. We're going to come back to it later, but write down 3 things if you can. I'll give everybody about 5 minutes, but if you are done early, we'll move on. Try to remember 3 times where there was something that was in your life and it was a negative connotation about that you didn't feel prepared, or like you were tasked with a job and you felt like an imposter. See, now I wish I controlled the music, because I would just play some music. Just the Batman theme song over and over again. I know it's hard. It's early in the morning. I'm making you guys use your brains. If I was writing mine, one of them would be having to do this presentation. And if you can't come up with 3, that's fine, as long as we have at least 1 for later. But try to dig deep a little bit. see the cogs working in everybody's head. It's really weird from this perspective to see everybody like, ugh. Yeah, if you want to write, if you want to just brain dump and have 10 right now, like go for it, man. Doesn't have to be work related, no. My problem is all I do is work, so everything is work related. We're about halfway there. If you do finish, just look up and then maybe we can move on. I give everybody enough time to do this. It hurts doing this at 9:20 in the morning, right? You guys thought I was just going to do like Batman and Robin jokes the entire time, but no, we're going to deep into your soul. We're going to dive deep into your soul.
Better than thinking I have to do at work.
This is a very much different presentation than last year when I talked about making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, that's for sure. And if you missed that, it's on YouTube. Oh, my phone went to sleep. I got another 2 minutes. How's everybody doing? Who's crying so far? Either internally or externally. A little bit? Yeah. It's okay. Everybody have at least one? All right, so we'll just move on. Okay. So, what can we do about this? We've talked about what it is. We've talked about what it feels like. Let's start talking about what we can do to make ourselves better and feel better about things. So the first thing I want to talk about is reframing your mind. Now, I know that reframing your mind when you're in the thick of it, when you're in a bad episode, seems almost impossible. But the truth is that if you just work on it for 10 seconds, you can actually regain your thoughts and realize you can do this. Now, what's cool about this is it may not look like it because it's a PowerPoint, but they are the exact same size picture. They are the exact same pieces. They are the exact same size frame. But yet, once you can reframe your mind, you find room for positivity. You find room to breathe. You find room to think these positive thoughts and stop beating yourself up. So the first thing I want you to do is to focus on your breath. I know this sounds hooey-fooey, but if you literally take 10 seconds to just focus your breath, you will block out all of this noise. 4 seconds in, hold it for 4, purse your lips, 10 seconds out. You'll be amazed how much just doing it once changes your mind. Now, I actually have this thing. I have this thing on my necklace. This is a Komuso whistle, okay? Now, I'm gonna believe the marketing from the company who makes this, but there is actually a ancient Japanese tribe of monks, so go with that if you will, who wear baskets on their heads for whatever reason, and basically walk around with what looks to be, who remembers the recorder from 3rd grade, right? They basically look like they're working around that. They're just long breathing whistles. And what they're doing is they're just focusing on their breath all day long. What this does when I'm in the middle of it, it allows me to focus my breath at a very small spot, allowing me to work on my exhale, and it allows me to like regain my thoughts. Next, seek support. Right? We've already discussed that no one here is alone. There's people out there who can help. I'm all for getting professional help if you need it. But sometimes we can't get to that. Sometimes you need to look at your friends and your colleagues, right? Look around the room right here. There's everyone here who's feeling the same thing you are. And so if you're in another session this week and you feel like you don't belong, reach out to someone else here in the room, because they'll tell you that you belong. In fact, I love doing these kind of things. This is the sign language for the letter I. If you see someone else, look around, get a picture of everyone else here. If you see someone else in the hallway during the next 2-3 days, go take your I pinky, double tap your heart. That's your secret handshake for the next 3 days, right? So if I see you, done. That's all you got to do. It's my way of telling you, Scott, because I know you are, because you're bad. I see you, I recognize you, you do belong. You're not an imposter. You know what you're talking about. I see my friend Rob, I go to Rob, I know he knows what he's talking about. I'm trying to use this as a way to positively motivate someone else. So seek support, okay? Do that within your peer group. Do that here. Find a mentor. Good mentors are amazing. For the next 3 days, if you would like, I'll be your mentor. I'm on the Mac admins. I'm at Justin Esgar. If you have a problem, you feel like crap, you don't think you belong, hit me up. I will respond to you, and I will walk with you. I might not be in education. I'm not in corporate. I'm an entrepreneur. But the fact of the matter is, whatever you're dealing with, I've dealt with something similar. I can help you through it. And even I have a mentor, and she has a mentor, and they tell 2 people, and they tell 2 people. It's always good. And then, like I said, if you need to, professional help. Don't be ashamed to ask for that. Embrace the mistakes. Who here has ever made a mistake? Yeah. If a boxer gets punched in the face, do they just lie down on the ground? No. They get up. What'd you say?
I said it depends on how hard.
Depends on how hard. A good boxer will get up and punch back. But more importantly, what they'll do is they'll watch the tape later and question, how did that happen? To ensure it never happens again. So even if you do make a mistake, take some time to debrief. Take some time to figure out and run through scenarios to figure out how to not have that mistake happen again. You want to reflect on it, right? You want to play out those scenarios. If I were tasked with, I don't know, pushing out a profile, I have 5 minutes to push out a profile so kids could use kid pics in the school. I don't know, whatever. Do kids still use kid pics? I don't know. And I'm tasked to push it out to 50 computers, and I have 5 minutes to pull this off, but only 49 of them get it. Because I have imposter syndrome, I'm going to question myself, what happened to that last one? Where did I screw up? All these things. But once I've now stepped out of it, I'm going to go through, I'm going to figure out what caused that mistake, and I'm going to try to plan for that without over-planning, because there's a level there, of making sure that it doesn't happen again. Well, maybe the computer was off. That's why I didn't get the profile, right? So I'm going to play out that scenario. Maybe a kid touched it while I was doing it. Maybe that computer is running the wrong OS. Maybe it didn't get a patch. Maybe this, whatever. I'm going to play out those scenarios, but I'm going to play them out in such a way so that way the next time I'm tasked with 5 minutes to push out, I don't know, whatever, Oregon Trail. I'm trying to think of what kids do. I don't know what kids do anymore. I'm going to go through that checklist that I've built out because I've embraced those mistakes and I ensure that nothing happened. Because clearly, if that computer was off, it wasn't my fault, right? I didn't purposely, with 5 minutes, run over and turn off the computer and self-sabotage myself. That seems stupid. So I'm going to try to figure out what happened and play those scenarios out. So this way, it doesn't happen again and I don't fall into that trap. Next, I want you to celebrate every win, no matter how small it is. I know a lot of people who keep a journal and they write down every win. Even if it's, I got up today. I didn't cry at work today. I did push out a profile to 50 computers and all 50 computers got it. The reason people write this down is there's a powerfulness in words that come from our own brain. There's a theory that if you are sick and you say, oh, I can't believe I'm sick. I'm always sick. Being sick sucks. Why am I sick? You will be sick longer than if you actually said, all right, I'm sick and I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to go get some orange juice or whatever, and I'm going to just fight through it and I'm going to be good. You will be sick short. This is true because it's all in our head. Again, lizard brain. It's all up here. If you celebrate the wins and you write them down, you read your own words, that becomes way more powerful for you for next time. I have a good friend of mine. She runs this amazing bakery business, and both of her parents passed away in a very short amount of time behind one another. So I think her mom passed away, I want to say like towards the end of last year, and her dad passed away like just a few months ago. And I was talking to her on the way up here, or down here, or west of here, whatever I am. Whoever can map from Jersey to here. And she was upset because she was mourning her dad more than she was mourning her mom, and she felt guilty about that. And I said, and she felt out of place. She didn't feel like herself. And I said to her, I said, hey, what'd you do today? And she's like, I haven't done anything. And I'm like, bullshit. You got up. I was like, did you get dressed? She's like, I'm actually wearing real pants. I was like, wonderful. 2 wins today. Even those smallest things help you, motivate you to do better next time and break you out of these cycles. Keep learning. Continuous learning and skill development. As much of a shitty student as I was, I love learning, but I love learning stuff that means things to me. So while I may not be interested in going to a session here about GitHub, I am interested in learning about Pumpkin Plan and business tactics and things like that. I listen to a lot of podcasts about that stuff. You keep learning. You are all here, now that we're going to get the Hug Fest over with, you're all here for the next few days to pick up a lot of tech skills. But you also need to pick up those soft skills. You may be in technology, but technology is not your life. You have a life. You need to pick up those soft skills. So being here is a good way to do that. One other thing I like to talk about in terms of learning is set goals, accomplishable goals. Okay? Who here has ever heard of Dave Ramsey's financial debt snowball tactic? All right, a few of you. So for those who don't know or are looking at me like I got 17 heads, Dave Ramsey's snowball tactic is this. You have 3 outstanding debts on your credit cards, and your minimum payments, because he doesn't care about interest for whatever reason, is $50, $100, and $200, right? And you're making your minimum payments, $50, $100, $200. And what you do is any extra money you make, you put towards that 50, only that 50. You pay off that first one. You've now paid off that $50 debt. What do you do now? You take that $50 plus any extra pennies, and you put that towards your 100. Then you pay that one off, because instead of paying 100, now you're paying 150. You pay that one off, you get that one done. You take that 150, you put it towards the 200. Now instead of paying 200, you're paying 350. You get that one done. It's a snowball effect. Same thing happens for goals. I run a business. I can set my goal to be, I want to make $2 million in a year. But truth be told, if I'm making $100,000, $2 million is way too of an audacious goal to go for. And I'm all for having what they call the BHAG or the LHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal, large, hairy, audacious goal. Have that. Mine is to own a private plane with the virtual logo on the bottom of it. Private planes are expensive. Somehow or other, I'm on private plane TikTok. I don't know what happened there, but I didn't know how expensive they are. God damn, they're expensive. But like, to get there from being here, it's way too far out there. So if I don't get there, I feel like a failure. So what do? You set accomplishable, minuscule goals. What's your goal today, this week, a month from now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now? Compound it upwards. That's your snowball. You're not going to be able to get there right away. So if I want to make $2 million in a year, I need to think to myself, okay, I need 2 new clients in a month. I need 5 new clients within 3 months. I need to cut staff, or I need to cut my billing, or I need to do this. And I plan that out. And the next thing you know, holy shit, I made $2 million. Because I took small goals that made me feel good and built me up instead of continuously beating me down. Because if I didn't make that 2 million, I'd be on the floor crying like the boxer who got hit in the face and didn't get back up. And lastly, build a supportive work environment. Who here is not a leader of a team? You are now. You can still foster culture in your business. You can still support other people. Excuse me. Because the truth is that if you are feeling imposter syndrome, guarantee you the people on your team are feeling imposter syndrome. And if you're not going to recognize it for yourself, let alone them, nothing's going to go. Nothing's going to get better. So create a supportive culture, because you're helping them help you, right? If you help your team and they're feeling better about things, you're going to feel better about things. If someone comes to you and says, hey, listen, your team needs to go do this project, and you're like, my team isn't really cut out for it, that tells the team that they're not cut out for it. So you can build them up. Build a supportive, even if you're not a leader. And if you are a leader, you have more power to do that. My friend Rob right there and I had a long conversation about culture yesterday. I have tried to build a good culture at Virtual Computers. I have tried to build a culture. I don't do that shit like, oh, we're all family. No, that's garbage. But what I have done is support my team any way I know how. One of my team members, her husband had an emergency. They had to go to a hospital. It was a whole big thing. I was like, you know what? I can't do anything for you from where I am, but use the corporate credit card and buy dinner. This way you can just like focus on your husband. Supportive culture, right? Things like that. You can do those things whether you are a team, whether you're the leader or not in a company. Okay, another activity. So you all wrote down the negative earlier, okay? So grab your pens, draw a really, really, really thick line underneath it, okay? And I want you to write down now the positives from that. What worked well? What praise did you get? And how do you feel now reflecting on that, both good and bad, if it is, okay? I'll give everybody another 5 minutes if I can figure out how to use the timer on my phone. You can do all, 1 or 3, it doesn't matter. I want you to write the positives from it, right? The idea here is we want to reframe that event. We want to think about how we really did succeed with that particular event or incident or whatever, not just the negative. What's interesting is while you're all writing this, from my perspective, all your faces have changed from the first time we wrote stuff. When you're all writing the negative, I saw a lot of scowls and sadness, but here I see like, it looks like you're really thinking about it and the positives are starting to come out. Oh, forgot about that. How we doing? Just still see some people writing, which is good. Oh, is that the international sign for you're out of coffee? Is that what that was? Just about another 2 minutes, but if you are done, just look up. This way I know you're done writing. See just 2 more of you writing, no big deal. Good. Okay, moving on. I see one more person writing. I don't want to stop them. You good? Okay, cool. Don't, if you're still writing, it's fine. I don't want to stop you. You good? Okay. All right. So even Batman has Alfred to help him reflect on things. So what I wanted to do, did anyone come here with somebody else? They're sitting next to somebody they know? No, I mean like in this room right now. You did? All right, you guys find someone else, separate from one another for this part. Sorry. Anyone else come with somebody that they know from like work? No, everyone else is a lone wolf? Cool. All right, I'm gonna give you guys 5 minutes. Partner up, like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. You guys can figure this out. You're all smart people. We're gonna share, okay? But what I want us to do is I want you to talk to this new person you've never met. I want you to share the positives, and I want the other person to help you reflect on those positives, okay? Because again, there's power in our own words. And here's a point where we can have someone who praises us, and it actually means something because we know that it's correct. All right, everybody understand the task? All right, you have 5 minutes to make a new friend and talk about your feelings. Go. Oh no, I'm dropping them all over the business. 1 minute. 1 more minute. I'm assuming this is water. Doesn't make any difference. Okay. Shh. We're gonna. All right, so that's our 5 minutes there. Everybody has made a new Alfred. You're all now friends. Okay. Now for the more important time. Sharing time. So we're gonna take a couple minutes. Who here wants to share a time that they felt like an imposter, but they've reflected on it to make it a positive? And the point of this is that you have positive influences from your own words you can keep in your, we'll say, Batman utility belt, right? Who wants to share? I'm supposed to have a catch mic, but I'm assuming I'm just going to use this. Oh, it's all the way back there? I'm not. All right, fine. If someone wants to get that, that's fine. Who wants to share? And I have prizes for people who do share. All right, hold on. You're gonna try to. You want to go all the way? It's all the way in the front.
None.
This is why I don't understand the catch box. I love that thing, but like we're in IT.
Yeah.
There's coffees near laptops. There's waters near laptop. Here's an idea. Let's just chuck a big box at one another. Give it a second, and if you stop moving it, it's supposed to just turn on its own. But we'll see how that works. Let's see if it works. Talk right. You gotta get right up in it.
Test, test.
Good. All right. Good.
Okay, good.
All right. What do you got?
Good. All right. What I have is a few years ago, we were invited to participate in a project with the State of Pennsylvania Department of Education and Apple deploying computers in high schools all over the state.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, who, me? In my company? We can do this? And we've got big providers in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Harrisburg that are doing this, and I'm just little old me, And how could I possibly do this? And we did accept it, and we did do it. And over the course of that 4 or 5 years, tripled our income,
Nice.
paid off some debts that we had and everything. And we were rock stars. We were traveling all over the state, going to all these schools, and waking up in the morning like, what city are we in? Where are we performing now? Right. And it was the coolest experience,
See?
And I could have easily talked myself out of it. No, not me, not us.
Right. That's awesome. Round of applause, Mark. You get one of those. All right. Who else wants to share? Right here.
So you can throw it.
You can do it.
Hello.
Yep.
I chose to, as my biggest source of imposter syndrome was raising my daughter. It's not an uncommon story to hear from every parent because they don't hand you a baby with a book that tells you how to raise these things. But especially, being a male in this society, I'm not familiar with the pitfalls that females in our society fall into. So I found it difficult to help and guide her in her growth. But this year, she's turning 18. She just got back from her senior trip to Europe. She's starting at UC Davis in the fall in her chosen field of environmental science. And she's very happy, very well adjusted, and I didn't fuck it up.
I can't get to the middle, but here, you can. Who else wants to go? All right, all the way in the back. Over, Rob. Nice. Yeah, Mark, you're just going to be my guy to give these out. 'Cause I'm not even-
Hello.
All right, go. Hi.
Is it on? Okay, so I work at Syracuse University, and I was tasked after 20 years of never touching a Unix box to do the Unix administration for my college because the person that was doing it left, and my boss was like, well, you used to work in Unix here. And so I was pretty much having a mental meltdown thinking there's no way that I can do this on top of all my other duties because I already have a real full-time job. And after quite a bit of trepidation, I had to dive in and get it done. And I realized that my boss believed in me and I could do it, so I should believe him. And I learned a bunch of new skills, and I was able to help our clients, and I think I now manage 120 Linux boxes.
That's awesome. Good job.
On it.
Anyone else? Back there.
Oh, I didn't have to throw it far. No, you do.
No, you have to have it for the recording. Yeah. Now everybody knows who you are.
All right. So my big thing was I belong to the Sons of the American Legion, which is an organization within the Legion. I was my squadron commander, and I was nominated as a district commander, which means I'd be in charge of 15 different Sons of the American Legions within my area, and I'd also be a state officer with that. And I'm like, wait a minute here. I just got into doing officerships here. I don't know if I want this. Well, after 3 years, they wanted me to run again. And the squadrons that were underneath me became more active within the district, within the state, and within their own communities. So I had a very positive impact on my squadrons.
That's awesome. Good job. Anyone else want to share? It's inevitable. This thing is the worst thing in the world. It's the best thing in the world, but it's also the worst thing in the world. That box has imposter syndrome, that's for sure.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So my whole job has been trying not to let imposter syndrome take over because I work for the School of Computer Science at Carnegie Mellon University. I do not have a computer science background. I studied marine biology in college. I just happened to pick up stuff working at the help desk when I was in college and realized, okay, maybe I can do this. And I now have to provide suggestions of what computers people should buy in the School of Computer Science, knowing nothing about what things they do, what programs they use, what they need. But if they say, okay, I need this program, I can ask my coworkers or I can look it up and find a device, and they get a device that works and we can support, and it's not so bad.
There you go. Awesome. We'll do one more. Ooh. Laptop okay?
Yeah, it's all right.
There's a lot of people here who can fix that.
Absolutely. And you just got a cover on it. So my biggest imposter thing, walking in here, but then I saw Justin and his Batman skills. But seriously, I know your podcast. I listen to it.
Oh, thank you very much.
I also I was a journalism grad, and now I'm desktop engineer, and I was tasked. I hear Unix, and I have to build from scratch an Ubuntu AWS workspace environment, and now it's fine. If it was 20 years ago, I would have failed out completely because my anxiety and everything like that would have just absolutely derailed me. But now I have a good manager. I have a good team, and I've been in this business long enough to know what pitfalls are there and everything like that. And the one piece of advice that when I mentor people is, if I am doing something that I don't know a lot about, which is a lot of the time, I will literally say, this is how I see it. How fucked up am I? If you go about it that way, people will actually tell you and help you.
Yeah.
And instead of other ways. So
Perfect.
Anyway, thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you. So, when it comes to imposter syndrome, right, it's, like I said, it's all in our heads. We are the only ones who can combat it. But now, we have an entire group of people here in this room who can help us through it, especially over the next few days and beyond. So this is my obligatory feedback. I think this shows up at the end anyway. But if you enjoyed my speech, please give feedback so this way I can rub it in everyone's faces that I'm the best speaker here. That's my presentation, and we can do some Q&A. Thank you, everyone. All right, now that I can relax off the slides. Anybody here ever read The Phoenix Project? Really? Only one person? That book is so good. That book, page 1 is mid-level IT person gets promoted to CTO with middle of the day. And within 6 hours, the owner of the company comes in and goes, we're 3 months behind on the Phoenix Project and it's all your fault. And then the next page, he just goes, shit. And the rest of the book is figuring it out. It's a DevOps book, to be honest, but I make it mandatory reading for anyone who joins my team because a lot of it in there is unknowingly it's imposter syndrome and how he gets through it. Now, it's more of a technical deep dive because he talks about the methodology. There's like one guy who knows all the answers and how they're going to figure it out, and a lot of stuff about Kanban boards and all this other stuff, which is also good learning anyway. But if you look at it from the perspective of the protagonist in the book, he wasn't cut out for this. He wasn't told what to do. He just got thrown into this thing and had worked his way through. He got punched in the face and he got back up. Don't go around punching people. Actually, someone told me today, I said, I'm sorry, my presentation. They said, break a leg. I said, that seems violent, but it seems very Batman. So yeah, I do recommend that book if you're interested in something like that. So it covers both sides of things. All right, Q&A. Does anyone have questions? Please have questions because I have 17 minutes. Yes, we got to throw the box all the way back over there. Oh, it's over here. All right. Well, this will be good. Watch. No. Nice. Sports. All right.
So, do you think we've seen an increase in imposter syndrome since everybody started working remotely, or there's been more remote work come up?
Ooh, good question. Have I seen an increase in imposter syndrome? Yes, mainly because it's been a lot harder to have that supportive workplace culture, right? Because that's a major part of it. Once everybody went home, what happened? Now all of a sudden everyone's on Zoom and, God forbid, Teams. It's hard to cry to someone else over Zoom, right? Like, truth be told, like, I have a therapist, and during COVID, when he was doing remote times, like, I found it hard to, like, be as open with him as I was when I'm sitting at home in my desk, knowing that my kids are gonna come interrupt me, my dog's gonna come upstairs, my wife is gonna be talking on the phone downstairs, or whatever. So, like, it's because of that, you're in a different mindset, right? Home is home, work is work. Now, some of us blend those two. Like, at home, I have an office because I've always worked from home. So, like, for me, the whole work from home thing wasn't as bad. But for a lot of people, as soon as they went from working in an office, seeing 40 people a day, to being home and alone, absolutely. So it wasn't, I think imposter syndrome was a piece of it. I think there's a lot more psychologically involved with that. But I would say yes. My answer would be yes. But again, I'm not a psychiatrist, all right? I'm just a flapping head who runs an IT company. So take my word for whatever, whatever it's worth. Anyone else? Questions? There's a doc in it for you if you have one, but he already got one. No? All right. Oh, you have a question? Yes. Thank you for saving me.
All right. Earlier you mentioned the presentation. How did you overcome the fear to present? You know, in our careers as we scale up, you know, we start from the bottom, but, you know, with years coming, you have more opportunities, you know, and when you have to overcome a crowd. I've always been a little intimidated with, like, positions and higher, but at the end of the day, we're all human, we're all the same.
Yeah.
So it's like my respects and my level of anxiety, you know, for presentation is like, how am I going to do this?
So for anyone who ever wants to give a presentation, I give one really solid piece of advice. Go take an amateur comedy class, right? I was a stand-up comedian for 6 months, and I sucked at it. And like, I'm pretty funny normally, and I was shocked at just how bad I was. But doing and this is true, please don't look it up, but it's on, I used to do a comic strip live on the Upper East Side. And it was a long time ago, and jokes are not appropriate now because the world has changed. But getting up in front of an audience like that, even at the amateur class, because the amateur class at comic strip, the deal was you had to bring people, and they had to have the 2-drink minimum because comedy clubs suck. And so it was a group of us, there was I think 5 or 6 of us in like one group, and we would perform every Monday at 7:30, and in the audience were like all of our partners and girlfriends and whoever at the time. But it got me over the fear of going on stage and grabbing a microphone and presenting. I've always been a loud, boisterous person, and you've heard me on the podcast. If you listen to, there's an episode of Mac Admins that I was on, not recently with Charles, but like a couple years back I was on. The end of it, they bleeped me out because apparently I got called a brash New Yorker, and I tell people to go themselves. And so they bleeped me out, which is the first time I've ever been bleeped. I thought it was hilarious. So I have a tendency to be loud and boisterous and curse a lot and do these things. Like, that's just who I am normally. But getting on stage, I was like, like I did not know what to do about it. And so taking that class, and that's why I tell people to do something like that, it helps you get over that fear of being on stage, right? I've since then, because of that, have been able to do things like give presentations or MC a conference, or even when I used to do television. I used to, don't ask me why, but my PR rep used to put me on Fox Business News a lot. I was not the person to be there. They asked me like what Greece should do about bankruptcy, and I legit said on TV, I think Disney should buy them. Like, I was not the right person for that job. I don't know why they kept bringing me up there. But like, for me to be able to like even have the drive to do that, to feel like I was worth it, to do these things, I had to break through that. And so taking something like an amateur comedy class, Toastmasters is another great example. Those things that force you to feel a little bit uncomfortable, because uncomfortableness goes away, right? You put on a new pair of shoes, they suck at first, but if you wear them every day for like 2 weeks, they become like super comfortable, right? It's the same thing. You got to break into it somehow and do something that's like low risk, high reward. Toastmasters, amateur comedy, things like that. Yeah, that would be my advice. Anyone else up front?
And then when you're ask, and then I'll throw it up.
Oh,
here.
sure. And when you guys are done asking, if you did ask questions, come. I don't have to keep having Mark get up. It's fine. Don't worry about it. You can come grab a doc from me. Yeah,
Sure.
go.
So I think I find it a little easier to be more admit more of my imposter syndrome to colleagues and to people who are in the same field. But when I get into those situations where I'm trying to explain these things to outsiders, I think I have a harder time doing that. Do you
Sure.
have any thoughts, advice, just dealing with people who, explaining these things to people who maybe don't know in the same way that we know?
First, let me start with your feelings about that are valid. Okay. Secondly, the people who you are talking to who don't get it also are having these feelings. They just haven't gotten to that existential wherewithal to recognize it. Third, don't use them as your support system, is really what it is. Like, I tried to explain to my mother things, and my mom is up there in age and doesn't understand computers. For a long time, she thought I did the same thing that my dad does, and my dad fixes vending machines. And I'm like, Mom, these are not equivalent to one another, right? Well, you fix computers, and he fixes things that have computers. No, he refills a Coke machine, and I deal with business problems on a daily basis. There's a big difference, right? So I just stopped talking about it to her. This is what I said earlier about seeking support. If you're not getting support from people, don't use them as your support system. They're not supporting you. Human tendency is to talk about yourself, right? And there's no one in this room who likes talking about themselves more than me, right? If you're having a conversation with someone and they're not getting it, it's because they want to talk about themselves. They're not actively listening to you either. So they're not the people. You could be their support system, but it doesn't always have to be reciprocal. Make sense? Awesome. Thank you. All right, all the way up front. Let's see how well this works. Cover your laptops. Here it comes. Whoop. Nice interception. Shit. Someone's gonna die from this thing. All right.
I wanted to follow up on with your conference thing, because that's actually one of the things that I wrote down from one of mine, was standing up here and giving a conference presentation. I've done it a couple times now. I'm one of the most introverted people you know, right? The thing that I always think of is that, like, think about yourselves. Nobody wants him to fail up here, right? So when you're standing up here doing it yourself, nobody wants you to fail. Everyone in here is that support system for you. And it can be super rewarding. Like, I thought I bombed out last year. I didn't like my presentation at all. I've had people come up to me this week and say, like, I learned something last year, and that, you know, has helped a lot with getting over that for me. So take the leap. Reach out if you need anything. There's 100 people in here that'll tell you, do it. And that's all I wanted to say.
That was awesome. Thank you very much. Anyone else? We still have a couple more minutes. Yes, all the way over there. All right. Yeah, I'm not going to be the one to throw it because I'll fail it. So. All right, here we go. Hut! Nice. Jones.
So I was recently in a position where I wanted to update my resume, and I never feel imposter syndrome more than when I'm supposed to write down my skills and my abilities and what I'm supposed to bring to a new team potentially. I have some ideas for how I can improve that, but you can't really rely on a support system to say, what am I good at? Like, you can ask people for sure, but it's got to come internally at the end of the day. So I was just wondering if you have any advice or tips or tricks that you use for yourself. Like, something I try to do is I'll write my wins down, like you said, but other than that, is there anything else you can think of?
I just want to read it because I was interrupted and I apologize. Do you want other ways to, like, psych yourself up to say that you are good enough? Is that what we're getting at?
Well, like specifically like for a resume.
For a
like, because
resume.
that's the point in time where I feel the highest level of imposter syndrome, because I'm supposed to say, I'm proficient in this, and I'm like, I don't know if I am.
You have an answer to this, Joe? I do. All right, give it to Joe. Because I haven't written a resume in 20 years. But I do have an answer, yeah.
I thought I'd be able to help you on that. You know, it's similar to writing your bio for getting up here and doing a talk. Some of it is writing your wins. Some of it is you just need to find the right person in your support network that can kind of help you with that. You know, I mean, we all have a lot more value than we give ourselves credit for. And it's very hard to see that when looking in the mirror. We just get up and go to work every day. You know, not everybody can be on Justin's hype train. You know.
Sorry, there's a reference there. I'll get to it in a second.
You knew I was going to bring it up. Either
I know
yours
you
or
were.
mine.
I'll come to that. I'll tell
No,
everyone
you really have to find that person in your support network. And sometimes it's a coworker, sometimes it's a loved one, sometimes it's something as simple as sitting there and talking to your boss and say, you know, on my last review, what did you actually think? Not what you wrote down. Let's actually have a good conversation about it and take notes. You know, and then start maybe journaling about what you're doing. So that way you can look back a couple months later, even though it can be tedious, and say, oh, yeah, it really was a win. Because there are a lot more wins that we all have than we realize.
You know what's funny about this? Like, on everyone's resume, everybody writes proficient in Microsoft Word. Right? It's because you are. It sounds stupid because, like, we all are because it's Word. And, like, Clippy helps out every now and then. God. Sorry, Clips. Like, let me ask you a question. You want to toss the mic back? Let me ask you a question. I'm going to put you on the spot. What's your job title right now?
Systems engineer.
Okay. And give me one system that you are engineering. Like, what do you take care of on a a daily basis? Give me something you work on.
So many things. But I mean, mainly SharePoint
Cool.
is something I use a lot.
Do you understand SharePoint well?
Pretty
Are
well.
you really proficient in it?
I like to think so.
I'm not. Right? I hate that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, someone said me too.
We all hate
That
it.
changes the whole hashtag right there when it's about SharePoint. But there's the point here, right? Like, you know, because you just told a room full of strangers what you're good at. Put it down. Proficient at SharePoint. parentheses, not joking. You know what I mean? Like, your support system will tell you what you're good at, but you know what you're good at. I'm good at coming up on stage and doing a presentation and being a fool and making jokes and whatever, right? But if you sat me down in front of SharePoint, that's not imposter syndrome. That's, I legit have no idea what to do. I've never logged into a SharePoint. I don't use it. It's not my wheelhouse at all. It's not even like I had like an inkling to do it. Like, I think I can get us to the admin page, maybe not. So like, there's something there, right? So if you say to yourself, I am good at this. This is what I work in and day out, and I am good at figuring, like, I'm good at getting shit done. I can't put that on a resume, right? So I have to find other fluffy words to do it. But like, that's what it is. You have to know yourself a little bit and believe that you are that person. Make sense?
Yeah.
Real quick, the hype train thing, just as a point of reference, I don't want to get this one on YouTube. I hosted this conference called the ACES conference, and someone had posted on Reddit questioning about it, and they were like, well, I only got one email from Apple, and all I've heard about is from the hype train guy who talks about it. He means me. So I took that to heart. I had a bunch of friends write out what the conference was about, and then I changed my LinkedIn profile, so now it just says hype train guy on it. So that's what the reference is. So, all right, we have 3 minutes. Any other questions? Oh, a lot of questions. Okay. We'll go 1, 2, and then I think we'll be out because I'll get Oscar music off the stage.
It was my fault. Okay, with the imposter syndrome thing, how do you negotiate a salary when you're going to a new job if you don't feel like you're really qualified for said job?
Get another offer.
I am not the person, I'll be honest, I'm not really the person to answer that, as I've run a business for 16 years and not had to negotiate a salary. However, I can use ideals behind negotiating with other people, and I can use ideals from my wife who works at a Japanese company, and so like the rules there are very strict about how to do things. One, yes, you can get another offer from someone else and use that. I tend to find that that's a little bit strong-armed and sometimes can be counted as like passive-aggressive. It's a little off-putting for people. You go in showing the things that you have done above and beyond. So you mentioned earlier that you had to take on these Unix projects, right? How well have those been working? What's the percentage increase in productivity among students because this thing has happened or that thing has happened? Use that. Use your wins to prove your value, to prove your worth. If they don't see it, then you walk away. That's the way I would look at it. I have 41 seconds. Let's see if we can get it in. I can't believe I really thought I was going to run like 30 minutes short. All right.
So I got over my imposter syndrome at my previous position.
Good.
And I am now in a new position because I felt confident enough. But I'm back in that sort of, how did I get here? I'm here 3 months after being employed at a new place. So my question is, what are the tips to sort of curb that imposter syndrome right out the gate?
You did it once. Believe the fact that you did it that first time.
Right.
Believe the fact that you accomplished it and you won that first time, you can do it again. Okay. Oscar music. Told you.
We knew it.
Believe in yourself. Like, this is going to sound fucking hokey. Believe in yourself. Shut up. I'm having a conversation here. This all probably got cut off. If you got through it once, you can get through it again.
Okay.
You get up every day. You put on your clothes It's not like you wake up in the morning, you're like, I forgot how to put pants on today, right? It's that. If you can do it once, you can do it again. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming. Have a wonderful conference. I'll see you guys around. If you need me, please DM me, Justin Esgar. Leave feedback on me. That'd be wonderful. And if anyone has questions, I'll be around all week. Thank you very much. You are welcome.